"You're under citizen's arrest for unauthorized grilling." That sentence turned my Saturday, my weekend, and possibly my cholesterol levels into a saga I'd never forget. I was standing in my backyard, flipping burgers in peace, when 3 wannabe commandos in matching polos and dollar store sunglasses stormed in, trailed by the one-woman HOA dictatorship herself, Brenda Whitaker. I wasn't shocked she showed up. She always did, rain or shine, ready to snuff out any spark of joy in the neighborhood. But when she pointed at me, barked orders at her security team, and watched them try to cuff me on my own lawn, that was a felony wrapped in a comedy, and it was about to get wild. The day had started like any small-town sheriff's Saturday. After 5 days of paperwork, patrols, and settling disputes over everything from yapping dogs to rival gardeners, I, Sheriff Ethan Caldwell, finally had a moment to breathe in Cedar Grove. I'd marinated my ribs, fired up the grill, and set out iced tea for the neighbors. A couple of local kids biked by, waving, a perfect, peaceful scene, until a microphone screeched across the street, and Brenda's shrill voice cut through like a siren announcing Armageddon. "Attention, residents of Cedar Grove. The HOA block safety event is now in effect. All unauthorized activities must cease immediately." I peered over the fence and saw a full-blown stage near the cul-de-sac. Brenda, decked out in what I can only describe as tactical athleisure, complete with a utility belt holding a clipboard, a whistle, and what looked like a pepper spray bottle labeled Brenda's Breeze, strutted like she was leading a SWAT team. Behind her were 3 guys, Cody, Jake, and some third dude I never bothered to name, wearing shirts that read, "Cedar Grove Tactical Crew." I'd seen arcade security with more training. They stood by golf carts painted to mimic police cruisers, with LED lights duct taped to the roofs. I knew trouble was brewing, but I underestimated the sheer absurdity. My grill, it seemed, had committed a cardinal sin. According to Brenda, the smoke violated air quality thresholds, set by the HOA's new Pure Air Protocol. I laughed out loud. Big mistake. Brenda marched to my fence, screeching, "You've been warned before. Your smoke is disrupting the designated safe breathing zone for our block event." I calmly explained that my house, built a decade before Cedar Grove's HOA existed, wasn't under her jurisdiction. I had the deed to prove it. She ignored me, pulling out a walkie-talkie. Yes, a full-blown radio, and barked, "This is Unit Alpha. Suspect resisting compliance at Lot 14. Request backup. Prepare for detainment." I blinked, looked around, half expecting a prank show crew to pop out. Nope, just me, my spatula, and a backyard. 10 minutes later, the golf cart convoy rolled up, complete with flashing lights and a siren that sounded like a strangled duck. Cody stepped forward, holding plastic zip ties, and shouted, "Sir, step away from the meat and place your hands where we can see them." I wasn't sure whether to laugh or call the real police, but since I am the real police, I chose amusement. "I'm Sheriff Ethan Caldwell," I said politely. "You boys sure you want to keep this up?" Cody hesitated. Jake muttered something about this being above his pay grade. But Brenda snapped her fingers. "Do it. He's impersonating a law enforcement officer to dodge HOA accountability." And just like that, they moved in. Before I could grab my badge, Cody zip-tied my wrists, too tight, mind you, and marched me to the driveway like I was a fugitive. I didn't resist or raise my voice. Why? Because right on cue, my patrol car rounded the corner. Deputy Laura and Deputy Mike sat inside, eyes wide as they saw their sheriff being frog-marched by 3 guys in cargo shorts. Laura hit the sirens. Cody froze. Brenda stepped forward, addressing the deputies like she was briefing Congress. "Officers, you're just in time. We're making a citizen's arrest of this individual. A danger to neighborhood unity and air purity." "Brenda," I said, "you might want to stop talking." She didn't. She launched into a tirade about community values, Reddit-sourced legal precedents, and how the HOA trumped county law, a masterclass in confident nonsense. A crowd gathered, phones out, my ribs charring on the grill. One neighbor whispered, "Is this real?" Another muttered, "Is this a prank show?" Mike stepped forward, removed the zip ties, and handed them back to Cody, saying flatly, "You just detained the sheriff." Cody looked like he might pass out. Brenda doubled down. "He's a threat to neighborhood peace. I don't care what badge he has." Then came her fatal error. She handed me a citation from her clipboard, reading Violation 5C, Weaponized Barbecue Emissions. I held it up for the crowd. Weaponized. Laura coughed to hide a laugh. Mike leaned against the cruiser, shaking his head. "We're gonna need a serious talk, Brenda," he said. But she wasn't done. "You'll hear from our legal team. You may be sheriff now, but HOA elections are coming." She pointed dramatically, like a soap opera villain. It was clear this wasn't just about ribs. She declared war, armed with fake badges, printed charters, and golf cart goons. Unfortunately for her, I had the law, and I wasn't just flipping burgers, I was flipping her entire script. Cody and his crew stood awkwardly in my driveway, the neighborhood watching this circus unravel. Brenda puffed up, convinced she'd neutralized a threat to her block party. My deputies, meanwhile, were barely holding back laughter. Laura pretended to scribble notes, hiding a grin. Mike gave Cody a stare that could have melted steel. The zip ties left marks on my wrists, but I wasn't mad. I was amused, which was far worse for someone like Brenda. She wielded her clipboard like a sword, reciting clauses from her Community Enforcement Code. Section 14, Article C. Residents shall not operate pollutive machinery, including grills, lawnmowers, or leaf blowers, during official HOA events without clearance from the event's coordinator. She glared. "That's me, by the way." I nodded, glancing at Mike, who was filming her with his phone. "Good," I said. "Evidence." The absurdity didn't faze Brenda. It fueled her. She turned to the crowd, shouting, "This man refuses to follow basic guidelines. He's endangering our unity. He grilled chicken without registering the protein type with the HOA Health Subcommittee." That drew laughs, and even Cody gave her a side-eye. She was unraveling, and it was glorious. I decided to end the show. Stepping forward, I pulled out my wallet, holding up my badge. "I'm Sheriff Ethan Caldwell, elected law enforcement official of Lincoln County. You're not above the law. Detaining me on my property under a fake code from a homemade binder? That's unlawful detainment. A crime." The crowd went silent. Brenda's eyes widened, realizing she'd walked into her own trap. "You're bluffing," she snapped. "You're trying to intimidate me. I have the right to protect this neighborhood. No bylaws override county, state, or federal law," I said, stepping closer. "You can't impersonate police, detain citizens without witnessing a felony, or run a pretend security team out of your garage with HOA dues." Murmurs spread. One neighbor muttered, "I knew my dues weren't fixing the park swings." This wasn't just about today, it was a pattern. Residents had lived under Brenda's thumb too long, and her illusion of power was cracking. She saw it, her voice rising in panic. "He's discrediting me. He's making this personal. He doesn't want a clean community." Her eyes darted, seeking allies, but support was fading. Even Cody inched toward the golf cart, ready to bolt. I turned to Mike. "Deputy, issue a cease and desist notice for impersonating law enforcement and unlawful detainment. Start gathering statements. We're opening a file." Brenda gasped. "You can't open a file on me. I'm not a criminal." I gave her a look. Yet, Mike approached, calm but firm. Brenda backed up, shrieking, "This is harassment. I'll file a grievance." She turned to her crew. "Aren't you going to do something?" Cody scratched his head. "I think I left my flashlight at home. I'm going." Her empire, built on fear and fake rules, collapsed in real time. The crowd turned from spectators to witnesses, some recording. I didn't need to shout or flash my badge. The truth was loud enough. Later that day, I attended the HOA emergency meeting Brenda called to review my conduct, held at the clubhouse, a tacky building with beige walls and cheesy motivational posters. Brenda sat center stage, flanked by two board members who looked like they'd rather be golfing. She tapped the mic, launching into a rant about community standards, non-compliance, and Dangerous grilling incidents. When she called me to speak, I stood with one sheet of paper. "This is my property deed," I said. "My home was built in 1994, your HOA in 2003. You have no jurisdiction over me, zero." I placed the paper before her. "Your attempts to enforce anything on me are void." "That's not opinion, that's fact." Brenda sputtered. "Well, maybe not your property, but your behavior." "Let's talk behavior," I cut in. "You authorized illegal detainment, misused HOA funds for an unauthorized security team, and issued citations for everything from chalk drawings to party balloons, all without legal authority." A board member spoke up. "Is that true, Brenda, about the security budget?" A woman from the crowd stood. "I'm an accountant. Last year, the HOA diverted $40,000 to neighborhood protection and safety. Golf carts, fake uniforms, radios, and weekly briefings at Cody's house, with catered meals and craft beer." Gasps filled the room. Brenda shouted, "Those were operational costs. Beer's good for morale." The board member said, "We're opening a full budget review, effective immediately." Brenda stood. "You can't do this. I'm the president." But the room had turned. I walked out, the scent of charred ribs drifting from my yard. A neighbor clapped my back. "Should have voted you in ages ago." I laughed. "I'm already sheriff. That's enough paperwork." But I knew this wasn't over. Brenda wouldn't fade quietly. She tasted power and would swing back, crazier than ever. The next steps weren't about a barbecue. They'd peel back layers of corruption deeper than a block party. I was ready. She'd made one mistake that would haunt her. She tried to arrest the wrong neighbor. For a few days, Cedar Grove went quiet. Brenda went underground, not literally, though I wouldn't put it past her to have a bunker under Cody's garage. The overzealous security patrols vanished. Golf carts stopped cruising like knockoff tanks, and residents smiled at mailboxes for the first time in months. It felt like victory, but as sheriff, I knew easy peace often hides a brewing storm. While Brenda plotted her next move, I started digging. Not officially, not yet, but I'd heard enough from that budget reveal and neighborhood whispers to know there was more. People don't impersonate law enforcement without building a false empire to hide something real. I visited homes, folks I'd met on noise complaint calls or neighbor spats, and collected stories that made my blood boil. A retired librarian said Brenda fined her for a flagpole exceeding HOA height limits. Never mind, it flew her late husband's Navy banner, standing for 20 years. A mechanic admitted paying 3 compliance penalties to avoid repainting his driveway, with no receipts. Brenda threatened liens or lawsuits. Worst, a single mom was hit with an emergency noise violation for her kid's birthday party, payable only in cash, $300. None of it was legal, none traceable, and most residents were too scared or confused to fight. HOA rules are vague, overwhelming. Brenda exploited those cracks, knowing exactly how to skirt the law. Then came a call from Tyler, a young tech guy in the neighborhood. He'd stayed neutral until his new home surveillance system picked up an odd signal. A drone flying a grid pattern over homes, including mine. Curious, I asked if he could trace it. Tyler grinned, inviting me over. His footage was chilling, not a toy but a drone with an onboard mic, GPS, and real-time streaming. One clip showed his backyard. Another caught me on my porch during a call with a DEA contact. The audio was fuzzy but alarming. This wasn't neighborhood watch, it was illegal surveillance. I thanked Tyler, asking him to save every file, log, and signal ping, then took the evidence to county legal. It didn't take long to confirm. If Brenda or her team operated that drone, they'd crossed into federal territory. Recording law enforcement communications without clearance? That's a felony. Our little HOA drama was now serious. I met internal affairs the next morning, handing over everything. They were hooked but needed more. Financial records tying the drone and other HOA expenses to Brenda's personal dealings. I called in a favor from Sarah, the board treasurer, who'd stayed quiet, intimidated by Brenda. Hearing about the drone, she didn't hesitate. We met at a diner, where she handed me a flash drive, whispering, "I should have done this sooner." She said she'd ruin us. "I've got kids." I promised protection and opened the drive. Spreadsheets, payment histories, emails. The HOA had funneled funds into community beautification and neighborhood outreach tech, covering surveillance hardware, fake badge printing, and incident readiness training. Cody had attended a 3-day tactical workshop, funded by HOA dues, posing with a cardboard cutout labeled Hostile Grill Operator. An email thread sealed it. Brenda wrote to the board about collecting actionable intel on the sheriff before he retaliates against community standards. With county legal and the district attorney, we filed a motion to freeze HOA activities pending investigation. A full audit was scheduled, and we secured a warrant for Brenda's residence and the HOA office. I stayed back to avoid bias, watching from across the street as real uniforms rolled in. Unmarked vehicles, forensics, a city drone task force. Brenda stepped out in a pink bathrobe, clutching a Boss Queen mug, shouting about trespassing. They showed her a judge-signed warrant. She paled as boxes of files, drives, and walkie-talkie logs, codenamed Operation Smokebuster and Code Red Hedge Height, were carried out. Neighbors watched like it was a parade. Someone yelled, "We love you, Sheriff," and tossed me a breakfast burrito. Cody, defecting under pressure, sat on his porch, sipping iced tea, looking like he'd escaped a cult. The raid wasn't flashy. No battering rams, just methodical precision that devastated Brenda's empire. A locked closet labeled office storage revealed a war room. Neighborhood maps with pins, a corkboard with resident photos, mine labeled under surveillance, recorded meetings, and a draft amendment for an HOA curfew authority. Cody's name appeared next to Enforcer Initiative and Tactical Escalation Training. It was absurd but serious, coordinated plans. Drone footage, nicknamed Sky Falcon, showed a couple sunbathing privately, audio of a domestic argument through a cracked window, and a kid's birthday party with Brenda narrating about unauthorized inflatables and sugar-based beverage violations. That clip led to her immediate suspension from HOA powers, barring her from meetings, fines, or board contact until legal review. The next week, we held a county-wide town hall at the Civic Center, packed to the rafters. News of the HOA takeover case had spread, drawing media. I didn't want the spotlight but knew it mattered. Opening with an apology, I said, "I'm sorry I didn't dig deeper sooner. I assumed neighborhood issues were beneath law enforcement. I failed to see the pattern until I became a victim." I laid out the fake security team, illegal detainment, surveillance, fraud, impersonation, and power misuse, not to shame Brenda, but to hold the system accountable. Residents spoke. An elderly couple fined for wind chimes disrupting Zen acoustics. A teen fined for her aesthetically non-uniform car. A veteran warned for an unapproved wheelchair ramp. Stories poured out, shifting the crowd from sympathy to awakening. Brenda tried to attend, in a blazer and sunglasses, shouting to press cameras about a political hit job and my HOA board ambitions. I didn't respond. The legal wheels were turning. The DA found grounds for charges: wiretapping, impersonation, fraud, misuse of funds, harassment. The HOA board froze operations, requesting outside mediation for restructuring. Brenda's assets were flagged, and a temporary manager, Elaine, a retired city clerk, took over. Cedar Grove had leadership that didn't weaponize clipboards. I visited the HOA office after hours, not as sheriff but as a neighbor. Past Brenda's desk, I found the corkboard, packing every photo, pin, and string into a box, along with her HOA president nameplate. The illusion was over. Driving the box to county records, I smelled grilling as I pulled into my driveway. A neighbor waved, flipping burgers, no sirens, no citations, just peace. Cedar Grove felt like a neighborhood again. The trial, 3 weeks later, was theater. Brenda, representing herself, strutted in like a rogue influencer, power blazer, oversized sunglasses, a binder labeled Liberty versus Oppression. HOA edition. She declared persecution by an overreaching sheriff, citing a Facebook thread and a TikTok creator as precedent. I watched, torn between awe and cringe. The evidence was crushing. Drone footage, financial records, testimonies, recordings from her command center. The birthday party clip, with Brenda's narration, silenced the courtroom. She grinned, oblivious. The judge let her ramble, even when she asked a neighbor, "Is your lawn a beacon of community shame?" Or, "Did you paint your mailbox without approval?" By day 3, he'd had enough. "Ms. Whitaker, this is a court, not your podcast," he said, calling a recess. When the verdict came, guilty on 6 charges, including impersonation, illegal surveillance, and fraud, Brenda didn't cry or shout. She muttered, "This town doesn't deserve me," and asked to appeal to the federal HOA. The judge clarified it doesn't exist. Her sentence avoided jail, preventing martyrdom, 800 hours of community service under county supervision, a lifetime ban from HOA leadership, and restitution to residents. Ironically, she sorted mail and washed patrol cars at the sheriff's department, passing me every Monday and Wednesday as I sipped coffee. The first time, she sneered, I raised my mug. Neither spoke poetic justice. She wasn't silenced, just humbled, visible to those she dominated, bound by real rules. Elaine became permanent HOA president, canceling baseless fines, refunding fees, and opening budgets for review. Monthly Q&As and a replanted community garden transformed Cedar Grove. Neighbors chatted on porches, held real block parties, and helped with yard work without fear of mulch shade violations. Cody, after cooperating, took a civics class and worked at the community pool sans tactical vest. Jake and the third guy vanished. One afternoon, Elaine brought a pie, thanking me for restoring order. It was a team effort, I said. She laughed. No team without you humiliating Brenda into court. Days later, Cedar Grove hosted a community revival fest, with music, food trucks, and a dunk tank featuring a Brenda cutout holding a citation. Excessive fun. Kids tossed beanbags, closure through laughter. At dusk, I sipped iced tea, watching the sunset. Brenda, in her orange vest, picked up cups and wrappers nearby. Her eyes flicked to me, bitter, deflated, but harmless. A deputy asked, "Think she'll swing back?" I shook my head. She might try, but Cedar Grove knows the law now. They have a voice and won't hand it to someone with a megaphone and fake badge. Stars emerged, music faded, and Cedar Grove felt like home. Not just houses, but people who'd survived a wild ride together. All it took was one HOA Karen trying to arrest the sheriff to remind them who runs a neighborhood. The people. The aftermath reshaped Cedar Grove permanently. Brenda Whitaker's downfall headlined local news. HOA tyrants fake arrest of Sheriff Sparks reform. The HOA, under Elaine, became a model of fairness, with bylaws requiring resident votes on major decisions and legal oversight for enforcement. Brenda's restitution covered $50,000 in illegal fines, redistributed to residents, with surplus funding a new playground, swings included. Cody's cooperation earned leniency. He became a community advocate, teaching kids about civic rights at the pool. Tyler's drone evidence led to a county ban on unauthorized surveillance, earning him a tech award. Sarah, the treasurer, joined the board, ensuring financial transparency. The DA's investigation expanded, uncovering similar HOA scams in 2 counties, leading to 15 arrests. Cedar Grove held annual revival fests, with the Brenda cutout a tradition. Kids now drew mustaches on it. A plaque at the community garden read, "In honor of Cedar Grove's stand, 2025. I spoke at the second fest. Power only wins if we give it away. Keep your voice, your rights, and your grill hot." A year later, I grilled uninterrupted, neighbors waving, Brenda long gone from sight, her vest days over. Cedar Grove thrived, porches lively, yards free of citations, a community that learned to stand against clipboards and fake badges. My ribs were perfect, the air clear, and the lesson etched. No one arrests the sheriff or the spirit of a neighborhood that knows its worth.